What's going on, everybody? Welcome. This is Whistlekick Martial Arts Radio. And on today's episode, Andrew and I are doing a word association. It's been a little while since we've done one of these, and they're a lot of fun. And if you stick around, you'll see Andrew plus other people submitting questions that are words, I guess, meant to either throw me or make me think or perhaps just be poignant. So hang out. This is one of our most enjoyed formats. If you're new to the show, make sure you head on over to whistlekickmartialartsradio.com. That's where we have everything, all of our episodes with transcripts and so much more for you to get the most out of each episode. They're all there, 800 and whatever number this is, because we figure out the numbers later. They're all there. We don't hide them. We don't make you pay to get access to back stuff. You just get access to it forever. And if you want to check it out, maybe I remember this episode. I wanted to share that episode. Maybe you hear an episode with someone and they reference a past episode, their instructor or something, and you want to check that out. Head on over and check it out. See all the cool stuff we got going. Now, whistlekick.com is our online home. It's the place to go for everything. We, of course, link out to whistlekickmartialartsradio.com, but also other websites like martialjournal.com. We have pages on there for things like the Never Settle Awards, Martial Summit, Free Training Day, our training programs, apparel, protective gear, and so much more. I spent Friday, I think I launched 15 new items in the store on Friday. So if you haven't been over there in a while, check it out. And if you find something you like, use the code podcast15. That's going to save you 15% on that stuff. And if you want to support us, you can make a purchase. But the number one thing I would ask of you, join the Patreon, patreon.com/whistlekick. You can go for $2 a month. And at the upper tiers, we give you even more. And so that's where we're at. Okay, Andrew.
All right.
Word association time.
Word association. This is number 8.
I'm a little nervous. 8?
Yeah.
How long has it been since we did one?
Since June. It's been a while.
So 3 months. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I listened. I was thinking of this today when I was coming up with some of these words because people have not sent me words, so I have to come up with my own.
Oh.
But I was thinking of another podcast that I listened to. In every episode, the two hosts come up with something that they like. It's just a nice, fun, pleasant conversation. And each episode, the husband will talk about something that he likes and that he enjoys and that brings him joy. And then the wife will do the same thing. And the show's been going for years. And so one of the listeners actually created a wiki on their show that they reference when they're like, have I talked about this before? I don't remember. So I'm starting to get that way with these words. Like I've got my list of words on my phone here and I'm like, have we done that word before? I don't know.
Okay, so I'm going to throw it out there. Yeah.
So I'm going to say if an audience member wants to create a wiki for Whistlekick so that I can reference it and find out what words I've done before, that would be great.
And you're laughing, but you're not joking, right? And there are so many things that we could do in cross-referencing, tagging the content that we have, right? If you take a look at our show notes, we've never really done timestamps on them. The new software that we're using does have some of that. But bottom line, like if you love this show, if you want to get more involved in it, probably should have at least a little bit of a technical background, but we can do that.
Yeah. So, but my thought with this list is if there is a word on this list that you've done before, you might come at it in a different way. So
there's a very good chance.
Yeah. So, all right. In no particular order, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got 10 words here today.
Okay.
And the first word is scissors.
I don't even have a pair of scissors nearby. That's interesting. I was going to go. So here's the interesting thing about scissors. We take for granted how effective they are for being so simple. What's a pair of scissors? It's two one-sided knives. that are bolted together and have really high tolerances in their production, so you can cut things. Now, it's easy. Most of us, what do we use scissors for, right? We're cutting paper. We're cutting things that are very simple. But if you are someone who maybe works in a machine shop, you've got scissors that will cut through steel, like full on metal. If you are a hunter or a butcher, you have scissors that will go through flesh and bone. And so, just the technology, I think, is absolutely fascinating. There are things that we have in the martial arts like that, things that are bizarrely simple and so incredibly effective that we often kind of overlook that interesting juxtaposition. We've talked about it on the show before. A simple punch, a jab, a back fist, whatever you call that forward hand extension into some kind of attack. It could also be used defensively. It can be used moving forward. It can be used moving backwards. And there's a reason that that front leg straight hand exists in, to my knowledge, every combat sport that has punching. Right? I've never seen a martial art that has punching that doesn't have a lead hand jab, lead hand punch. And because of that, I think a lot of martial arts schools undertrain it. Because it is simple, because it is effective, but it's also not sexy. Scissors are not sexy. Scissors are just kind of there. But when you need a pair of scissors, what else works? Have you ever needed a pair of scissors and used a knife? Doesn't work very well.
It doesn't
work well, does it? You're like, I'm going to score the paper 16 times, and an incredibly skilled person with a very sharp knife pales in comparison to a small child using a decent pair of scissors in the effectiveness of the cut, right? And you could make the same claim about, okay, maybe a jab, a punch here would be most effective, but I'm going to try to do something else. Or maybe that hand has to be kept behind your back, and now you're forced to do something else. It's not going to work nearly as well. And we have other techniques that we could argue are the scissors of martial arts. I'll leave it there.
All right, garbage can.
Garbage can. Garbage is an interesting thing. So I was actually thinking about garbage the other day, believe it or not. And would we actually have garbage if we didn't have plastic?
Yes, we would.
Far less than we do now.
You're not wrong. You're correct.
I think it would so dramatically change the way we handle society that we might not actually have commercial landfills. But that's a whole separate thing. What is a garbage can? A garbage can is a place you put something when you are done with it and hopefully never need it again. Once in a while, you throw something out, you're like, uh-oh, and you're picking through the trash and you hope nobody sees, and you're hoping that it doesn't end up under the scraps of the whatever that you made for dinner 2 nights ago. Yeah. There is very little that goes in the garbage can in martial arts. Once in a while, somebody will say, I'm done with this. I'm done with this technique. I'm done with doing forms. I'm done with these other things. But there still might be a chance that they go back to them. And in fact, I would argue that it is the things that you most feel the instinct to put in the garbage can that you should be most resistant to putting in the garbage can, because that is where the progress comes from, right? It's the things that you don't want to do, the things that you don't like to do. We've talked about that on the show quite a bit. So the next time you're thinking, I'm never going to do this technique again, it's time to work on that technique.
All right. Clorox wipes.
Okay. I'm this is a good one. Yeah, you could. If you're listening, Andrew's doing, circular, open-handed, sort of Karate Kid-esque blocking motion. Yeah. We could go there with it. But I guess that's where we're going to have to go. There's a half-formed thought in the back of my head that I can't quite bring forward about cleaning and such. When you use a Clorox wipe, the irony is you don't actually really wipe. You tend to move in circles, right? We have this instinctive pattern that when we clean things, we tend to move in circles. If you look under the right lighting at most people's bathroom mirror, you're probably going to see swirls from how they cleaned it. It's something we tend to do. We tend to move in circles, right? Because if I go linearly here, right, like there's not a lot of strength here. I'm not going to block here, am I? I'm going to move in a circle. There's something instinctive. This is how my shoulder remains stable through that action. And we bring it into life. So, yeah, the next time you're cleaning, notice that. Notice how you feel instinctively drawn to move at the shoulder, and tell me that it doesn't have something to do with the core philosophies around blocking.
It is interesting. I would say I am the opposite. I do tend to clean in straight lines. I don't know
Where
why.
does that come from? Was that trained?
No. I mean, it could be due to the things that I tend to clean being straighter. So, I mean, even glass mirrors, or glass mirrors, I go either up or down or straight across. I don't typically. Anyway, it's just interesting. With Clorox wipes, I was thinking cleaning and polishing and using, polishing techniques and things like that. That's where my brain went.
I did not move from clean to polish. That's probably where my brain was trying to go.
Yeah, that's okay. All right, next one. Zoo.
So first, let me say I have this bizarre ethical dilemma with zoos, in that animals should be kept in the wild, but we as a species also really stink at valuing things that we have no connection to. So it's like, so I'm torn. But what is a zoo at its heart? It's a place where we can go and get exposed to a whole bunch of different animals. What if there was a zoo for martial arts? Not where the martial artists are in cages, but where you could go and take a bunch of different classes with a bunch of different people. You saw where I'm going. It's free training day, right? Like, free training day is like a martial arts zoo. You go and there's a bunch of stuff that you're checking out, and it's really safe and it's a lot of fun. And I don't know, maybe there's some place nearby you can get a corn dog. I don't know what zoo food would be for people. Is it corn dogs? I don't know.
I don't know. And occasionally a bear, like Tommy, will run up and give you a big bear hug.
Yeah, it's a fun environment for people. And the upside to Free Training Day / Marshall Summit for Free Training Day Northeast is that it's a fun environment for the animals too.
Yeah.
The people presenting are happy to be presenting.
I get your ethical dilemma with zoos. I feel very much the same way, but I also feel that there are zoos that do it better than others.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yes, and there are my favorite facilities are more rehabilitative. Like you probably here in Vermont we have VINS, which is a bird of prey sanctuary. And growing up in Maine, we had what is now called the Maine Wildlife Park. I grew up calling it I think it was like the Gray Game Farm or something. And it's animals that can't be released back into the wild. They're either injured and rehabilitating, or maybe they, lost their parents when they were really young, and so they didn't learn how to fend for themselves or whatever. But that's a really, really cool spot. Everything from moose to mountain lions to bears hanging out.
Fun fact, my wife does not believe moose exist. Because she's never seen
one. Okay, hold on. We can't. What?
She's never seen one, so she doesn't think they exist.
So if I send her pictures from like my kitchen window of a moose that walked through on my birthday a few years ago, what will she say?
You could have faked that.
But how?
I don't know. It's a funny, interesting thing. I mean, obviously,
Huh.
she's 46 years old. She knows that moose exist. But the joke
Right.
is she has never in her 46 years of living seen a moose. She was at her kickboxing class a few years ago, and there was one in Keene that like was going down the street by the kickboxing gym, and everyone ran and saw it, and as she got there, it had just gotten out of sight. She's the only one that didn't see it.
All right, we'll have to remedy this.
All right. I put them on before we started. Headphones.
Headphone. Headphones help you focus, and they keep other people from picking up what you're listening to. Right. In this case, you're using headphones. I asked you to put on headphones because there was a little bit of an echo with the speakers, and that was throwing me off. That was a focus issue. And in martial arts, we've got to be focused. If I'm training in a class setting and you're training next to me, every bit of energy I spend noticing what you're doing is energy I'm not spending on my own training. And so we don't have headphones, or really the equivalent in that case. We have discipline. We have literal focus. We're paying attention to what's going on with us. One of my common phrases if I'm teaching a kids class, you worry about you, they worry about them. It's my job to worry about all of you. You don't have to worry about them. I've got this. Right? And we've all, I think, been in situations, whether or not it's in a martial arts setting, where our efforts have suffered due to devoting energy to what somebody else is working on. So the next time you're training in a class setting and someone is distracting you, take it as an opportunity, take it as practice for your focus, and put on those observational headphones.
Interesting. Nails. Not fingernails. Nails like a hammer.
Nails are another thing like scissors in that they are super simple and bizarrely effective. And some of that has to do with, what you hammer nails into, right? If you try to attach two pieces of metal with nails, it's not going to work very well. But wood, when the nail goes through, compresses, and then it expands and creates pressure, and now the pieces of wood are held together. And there's something so fundamental about nails that, as soon as human beings made metal, we had nails. And tell me that there isn't anybody watching, excuse me, anybody in the audience who saw Karate Kid and saw Daniel practicing driving a nail with a single blow from a hammer and has not tried it at some point and does not still try it from time to time.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Never works. Almost never works.
Okay, next word. Screws.
Because nails didn't work in metal. A screw is a great example of applying persistence to an action that initially is useless. Take a screw, start, especially if you're trying to drive screws into something that doesn't have pre-drilled holes. You might get 5-10 turns and the screw hasn't actually bit into whatever you're screwing into, and you pause and the screw falls over. You go to adjust, you're losing balance with the drill, and the screw's not actually set in. But eventually, given enough time, the screw will set and you'll be able to drive the screw. And that's darn near everything we do in our training. Is this going to work? I don't know what I'm doing. Why is this happening this way? Just keep going. You've got to trust that it's going to work out. Now, have there been times when I've driven screws and thought I really should have pre-drilled a hole? Yes. That's an example of maybe a shortcut or a better application of technique given experience. There are lots of those.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of throwing single techniques and then backing off and sparring, I can throw 2 techniques, 3 techniques. It ends up being less work. Maybe it's less dramatic. Maybe it's not the way the other person I'm sparring is conducting themselves.
Okay, soda.
Soda. This one's hard.
Are you no longer?
Soda is the pressure points of food.
Soda?
Pressure points are the soda of martial arts.
Pressure points are the soda of martial arts. Say more.
Okay. They're fun. They taste good. Once in a while, they're not bad. But if all you eat, all you drink is pressure points, if it's the entirety of your training and your curriculum, you're probably going to get diabetes.
Interesting.
I don't know what martial arts diabetes would be. I'll let the audience determine what martial arts diabetes looks like or is. But pressure points are one of those things that if you spend any time training, you know they exist. They're real. Somebody blocks you in a certain way, you're like, oh, that hurts so much more than it I feel like it should have.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, there are people who spend a lot of time training on those things, looking for those pressure points, getting really good at identifying and applying technique to them. But like anything, it can go too far. If and don't think I'm just picking on pressure points here. If we think about competition, if the only training you do is for competition, you're probably missing out on some things. Mm-hmm. If the only training you do is forms, you're probably missing out on things. Or, high level, let's say, realistic self-defense training. Martial arts is best when it's a multi-ingredient recipe.
No, I dig
when
it.
It's a multi-course meal. So.
No, that's great. All right.
Soda.
Couple words left. Drum.
I always think of you when I think of drums now.
Okay.
Drums give context to the other instruments. Right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the most basic use of drumming is to set the timing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For
I'm not
for others.
Yeah.
And there's something interesting that happens if you've ever done forms in a group that knows each other well. That same synchronization occurs naturally. And I really like it. It's actually something I truly enjoy when I'm doing forms with a group of people that I know. We all know the form. We learned it in the same way. And whether it's, forms that have more methodical timing, more like a simple drum beat, the Taekwondo forms I learned were like that. Or maybe it's the karate forms I grew up with where the timing is all over the place, but you hold that beat together and you become part of it. I don't know that I'm doing a great job explaining it because I don't know that I can, but if you've experienced it, you probably know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. It's a cool experience.
Yeah, nice. Letter. Not the letter A, but a letter that you put in the mail and you mail to someone.
Okay. If you want to stand out, here we are in 2023. If you want to stand out for any purpose whatsoever in a communication to someone else, write them a letter. Periodically, I write letters just because, send them to people. Hey, was thinking about you. Hope this thing is going well. Usually I don't put it on quite a letter, but a note card. If you buy things from the Whistlekick store, you probably get a card, a short letter from me. And they're powerful because they're rare. They're powerful because they're unexpected. Mm-hmm. And there are a whole bunch of things in martial arts that are powerful because they're unexpected. In fact, that's kind of the heart of most combat sports, right? Once we get rules into it, it's effective, it's powerful because the other person didn't see it coming. If they see it coming, it's not going to work. So the next time you're sparring, what's the letter you're going to send? If you're a puncher, maybe you put a kick in there. If you're a kicker, maybe you're moving your hands more.
All right, last one. Cordless drill.
Are these all things from your basement?
No, I was driving around this morning and just thinking of fun words.
Okay. So we kind of did a lot of what I would have said about a cordless drill when we talked about screws. I think a cordless drill is a great example of something that most of us have had for so long that if we had to go back the other way, it would just be agonizing. Go grab a couple boards and a screwdriver and put even a screw that's got a good bite at the end. You drive that screw in by hand and tell me that your forearms aren't smoked by the time one screw's in there. Or even worse, you've got to use a hand drill, as in a hand drill. Yes, I have one. To set the drill hole, the pilot hole for your screw. You're going to be very, very judicious with how many screws go in and where they go and are they properly placed. And I think there are a lot of things that we have today, not a ton in martial arts, but we have some in martial arts where because they're, quote, cheap in terms of time or energy, we don't value them as much. When we have guests come on the show and they talk about what they had to do in the 60s or 70s to find a martial arts school, or when we hear about people who come on the show and they started training at 9, 10, 12, and they were the only person under 16 or 18 or 20 training, I think a lot of us take that for granted. I was lucky enough, I started in a kids class. But would I be here today talking to you if there hadn't been a kids class? No. I don't think I would. So sometimes I think it's valuable for us to take a step back and look at what we have and be grateful and recognize that there are things that through the collective effort of a lot of people before us have been kind of impactful. They've made things better for us. Most of us take roads for granted. We complain about potholes in roads, and yet go to Costa Rica. Drive outside of San Jose and, see these dirt roads that make my dirt road. Andrew, you've been to my house. I'm a few miles up a dirt road. It's like a highway in comparison because you can do more than 15 miles an hour without destroying your car.
Yeah. All right. That takes care of our words.
All right. Good words. Thanks, man. Hey, to all of you out there, if you want to get Andrew some words, Andrew at whistlekick.com, hit him up. Give him some words for next time. And thank you in advance. I have fun with these. If you want to reach out to me for some reason, Jeremy at whistlekick.com. Our social media everywhere you can think of is at whistlekick. And if you appreciate what we do, our mission here to connect, educate, and entertain, the number one thing you can do is spread word about this show and about our company, about our events, all the things that we've got. Tell your friends, tell your training partners, tell your instructor, tell your students. We would really appreciate it. Until next time, train hard
Smile.
and have a great day.